What is up, my beautiful, beautiful Recovered on Purpose family? I'm super excited you're here for this week's episode of Bringing the Word Wednesday right here on the Recovered on Purpose show. Today, we're going to be talking about multiplying your blessings in recovery with God's math. I love y'all so much and keep living Recovered on Purpose.
The black represents the darkness from which we came. The white represents the light in which we now live. And the red represents the passion it takes to live recovered on purpose.
What is up, everybody? I'm super excited you're here. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I've got my Bibles, got two of them. I've got my coffee, and I'm ready to go. And guys, today we're going to be talking about multiplying the blessings in your life, in your recovery, with God's math. And this is something, a lot of us try to add things into our life. We try to, we add exercise into our life. We add, a friend into our life or a relationship. We add a job into our life, and we see this as a blessing, which it is. But what about God's math? What about that math that we can't really make happen? Those things that just start falling into our lap. And how do we get this to start happening with our relationship with God? How do we get these things to begin to move us forward in a way that we can't plan for? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I got some verses for you guys. I've got some passages for you, and this is one of my favorite topics about how much God loves us. And he loves to show us how much he loves us in so many different ways. And I'm going to hop in and say good morning. Good morning, Kelly. Good morning, family. God is good all the time. Miss you too, Kelly. Love you. Love you. Love you. So before we go into this, I have a verse that I'm going to prelude everything with, because this is a really important verse before we go into, how we get these multiplied blessings in our life. Okay. So this is Ephesians 2, 7-9. 7-9. Throughout the coming ages, we will be the visible display of the infinite, limitless riches of his grace and kindness, which was showered upon us in Jesus Christ. For it was only through this wonderful grace that we believed in him. Nothing we did could ever earn this salvation, for it was the gracious gift from God that brought us to Christ. So the reason why I'm preluding it with this is that nothing we do, salvation is free. Salvation comes from faith in Jesus. It comes from, that relationship with him, knowing that what he did was for us and for our salvation. That's free. There's nothing we can do to earn that. However, there's a whole lot of things we can do in our life to get in God's favor, get in his blessing, so that we are, earning things in this life that will make it so that we can have the abundant life that we want. The salvation is eternal. That's something that just comes through faith. So I'm preluding everything that we're talking about with that passage, okay? So the next passage we're going to go to is Genesis 12:2. And this is when God is, working with Abraham. He's this is one of the first generations on the planet, and he's working closely with Abraham. He's talking directly to him, coming down and being with him on earth and talking to him, okay? So, I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. Other translations say that, I will bless you and make your name great. And what he's saying here is basically like Abraham is working with him. Abraham is working with him on growing, this family, on growing the followers of God, growing God's people here. And he's going to multiply him, and he's talking with him, and Abraham's following him. And what that's doing is it's making it so that Abraham can grow this in this huge family of people, this huge following of people. And he was basically one of God's first. Other than Adam and Eve, he's like God's first that he is working with closely to multiply our place here on earth. The next one we're going to is Hebrews 6:13-20. And this is where we're going to start talking about how to actually start multiplying these blessings into our life, okay? 13-20. God's faithful promise. Now, when God made a promise to Abraham, since there was no one greater than himself, he swore an oath on his own integrity to keep the promise as sure as God exists. So he said, "Have no doubt, I promise to bless you over and over, and give you a son, and multiply you without measure." So Abraham waited patiently in faith and succeeded in seeing the promise fulfilled. So Abraham waited patiently in faith. That's one thing that we need to be doing while we're working on things, while we're in our recovery. And a lot of us want things right here, right now. That was our the way that we wired our brain, was to receive the dopamine, receive the pleasures, and receive all this stuff right now. And a lot of us brought that into our recovery. We have to be willing to allow God to do that work for a significant amount of time. We'll see things come right here a lot. Those small blessings here, and the God winks, where something shows up day after day after day. But we have to be willing to really let this vision that we have in our mind for our life come to fruition, come into our life, and continue to do the works in faith. So, in the same way, God wanted to end all doubt and confirm it even more forcefully to those who would inherit his promises. And we are the inheritance of these promises. Everything I'm talking to you that he is promising to the people that we're going to be talking about in these passages, these are promises to you. He's not just talking to Abraham, he's talking to Abraham and all of Abraham's descendants, all of God's people. That's who these promises are for. His purpose was unchangeable. So God added his vow to the promise. So it is impossible for God to lie, for we know that his promise and his vow will never change. And now we have run into his heart to hide ourselves in his faithfulness. This is where we find his strength and comfort, for he empowers us to seize what has already been established ahead of time, an unshakable hope. So everything that we have right now in our life, everything that we have that we're going into the future, it's already ours. Everything that's in our heart, that thing that we want with our life, that God put that desire in our heart to have, or that desire in our heart to do, those people that we see that we want to serve, that group of people that we want to serve, that group of people that we want to help, and we can see in our mind's eye, we can see what we're supposed to do. It's already ours. And we weren't even the ones that put it there. God created us to have that vision, to have that dream to fulfill. And this is what his promise is. We have this certain hope, like a strong, unbreakable anchor, holding our souls to God himself. Our anchor of hope is fastened to the mercy seat, which sits in the heavenly realm beyond the sacred threshold, and where Jesus, our forerunner, has gone in before us. He is now and forever our royal priest. So we have an advocate in heaven working on our behalf, constantly looking for how to help us to fulfill the mission that we have on this planet. And every single one of us in recovery, we have a purpose, and we have a mission, we have a destiny to get out there and help other addicts find recovery. Period. There's a lot of other things that we have in life that we're supposed to do. There's a lot of other blessings and fulfillments and different things and experiences that we're supposed to have. But we, each and every one of us in recovery, we have a call and a destiny to help other people find recovery. It's like a beautiful harvest of people. There's 21 million people in America alone suffering in addiction. That is where we are called to be. We are called to be out there helping them. We are called to be creating an attractive recovery within our own life, to be living a life where we're a light beacon in the dark places. We're somebody that can walk into a place, and people that are struggling want to talk to us and know how we did it. That is our call. Everything that we're doing has that end in mind. Right now we're going to James 2:21 through 26. And this is a good one that is going after the Ephesians verse, because it's clear. It's very clear, and we made this clear at the beginning of the show, that salvation is free and cannot be worked for. It comes fully and only from faith in Jesus. Salvation for eternity. What we're talking about here, again, is blessings while we're here on earth, favor while we're here on earth, multiplying the blessings in our recovery while we're here on earth, okay? So 21 through 26. So this is why we abandon everything morally impure and all forms of wicked conduct. Oh, I went one page too far back. Wasn't our ancestor Abraham found righteous before God because of his works when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? Can't you see? His action cooperated with his faith, and by his action, faith found its full expression. So, in this way, the scripture was fulfilled. Because Abraham believed God, his faith was exchanged for God's righteousness. So, he became known as the friend of God. So now it's clear that a person is seen as righteous in God's eyes, not merely by faith alone, but by his works. And the same is true for the prostitute named Rahab, who was found righteous in God's eyes by her works. For she received the spies into her home and helped them escape from the city by another route. For just as a human body without the spirit is a dead corpse, so faith without the expression of good works is dead. So this is literally saying that it doesn't matter what your history is. A prostitute became the same level as any one of us, any follower of God, because when she heard God's call, she had that faith within her to do what she was supposed to do in that moment, and she did it. And that's what it's saying. We have the salvation, we have the relationship, but in order to really receive God's fullness, really receive the best life that God has already planned for us, we have work to do. We have things that we are supposed to do while we're here. And the greatest blessing for us in recovery, the best feeling, and I know that a lot of you have felt this, and if you haven't yet, start working on it because it is the best feeling you can have in recovery. When specifically because of something you do, someone finds recovery. And we can all say, yeah, well, they have to find it and they have to choose to do it. And I get all of that. But when you are out there working on it and you are out there finding people and you're talking to people and you're spreading your message, you're spreading your hope and your story, and then somebody reaches out to you for help and you take the time to talk to them, that could be saving their life. Maybe you were the one that they were put in the path of to help them find recovery. And when you hear back from them 90 days later or a year later, and they're telling you, that I remember that time that I talked to you and I haven't used since then. I decided to change my life that day. That feeling that you get in here, that is something I don't want anyone in recovery to miss. It is the greatest feeling. It's the greatest feeling. And now we're hopping over to this is where we're getting into God's math. So a lot of us, I mean, if you haven't heard the story of Job, basically Job was the most faithful man on the planet at the time. He was extremely faithful in God. He was God's like the apple of God's eye because he had nothing but faith in God. And Satan basically went and said, "Oh, I bet I could make him denounce you. I bet that if I did this, he wouldn't follow you." And God was like, "Nope, not my son Job. Nope, Job will follow me through anything. Job knows me well." And Satan starts going and attacking him. He starts giving him like skin diseases. He starts taking his crops away. He starts taking his fields of animals away, and then he basically like kills his whole family. And in this time, Job never falters in his faith. Whenever this stuff is going on and all these hardships are going on, he's constantly praying to God and saying, "God, I know you're good. I know you're good. I know you're the most wonderful God. I know that you have good intentions for me. All these things are that you have all goodness for me." And then Satan sends two of Job's friends to kind of talk to him in a way where it's very deceptive to get him to denounce God. And Job just does not do it. He won't do it the whole time. And after Job has lost everything, he's got sores all over his body and everything, and he still is pronouncing God. This is the end of it. This is Job 42, 7 through 17. This is the end of Job. After the Lord had finished speaking to Job, he said to Eliphaz the Temanite, I am angry with you and your two friends, for you have not spoken accurately about me as my servant Job has. So take 7 bulls and 7 rams and go to my servant Job and offer a burnt offering for yourselves. My servant Job will pray for you, and I will accept his prayer on your behalf. So God is using Job to pray for other people who did wrong. And that's our power as well. And that's something you and I have in order to help people also. Because when people are stuck in addiction, they're stuck in these ways, they're stuck in doing, basically everything wrong that we're supposed to be doing for God. I was there. I was there. You were there. Us in recovery that have found this relationship with God, we're able to release them from all of that bondage through prayer. We're able to release what that sin has against them to keep them in that spiritual bondage. So when we're talking to people, even though they're doing all these wrong things and blah 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 blah, our prayer for them is strong, and it can bring them to God in a way that maybe they can't specifically do on their own right then, because they are struggling so much with their faith and everything that they're doing in their actions. Okay. I will not treat you as you deserve, for you have not spoken accurately about me, as my servant Job has. So Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad and Shuhite, the Zophar, the Namathite, did as the Lord commanded them, and the Lord accepted Job's prayer. When Job prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes. So when Job prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes. Again, Job had lost everything in his life. He'd lost his family, his crops, his animals. His skin was covered in lepers and all this stuff. And when Job prayed for someone else, the Lord restored his fortunes. In fact, the Lord gave him twice as much as before. Then all his brothers, sisters, and former friends came and feasted with him in his home, and they consoled him and comforted him because of all the trials the Lord had brought against him. And each of them brought him a gift of money and a gold ring. So the Lord blessed Job in the second half of his life even more than in the beginning. For now, he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 teams of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He also gave Job 7 more sons and 3 more daughters. He named his first daughter Jemima, the second Keziah, and the third Karen, Habak. In the land, no women were as lovely as the daughters of Job, and their father put them into his will along with their brothers. Job lived 140 years after that, living to see 4 generations of his children and grandchildren. Then he died an old man who had lived a long and full life. If that's not our call, I don't know what is. Each and every one of us lost so much in our addiction. We went through so much suffering and so much pain. And God is telling you right now that he is going to restore everything the enemy tried to steal from you. He's going to restore everything the enemy tried to steal from you times 2. All the time that we lost in our addiction, all of the friends we lost in our addiction, the money, the credit, whatever it is that we lost in our addiction, it is going to be multiplied back on you times 2 in your recovery. I love you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep living recovered on purpose.